Welcome to Champagne Chats, discussions in the green room where we talk all things about events and the events industry. I'm Kate Woolley, also known as DJ Wildflower, and it's great to be joining you. Next up, we have a very special guest, giving us a backstage pass to life behind the curtain. Let's get started. Okay, so everyone sees the glory moments of events, but not everyone sees what really happens behind the scene and who is involved to make this happen. I've had the privilege of working with my next guest as an employee and as talent, and I have been in awe of the way that she approaches work. I've learnt a lot, I've become good friends with her, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome today Leah O'Brien. Thanks for joining me on a Champagne Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Is this so professional or what? Normally we're sitting here in like a kitchen or a bar.
Yep.
And today we're in the Champagne Chat studio.
Living our best lives.
Absolutely. Let's cheers to that. So it's rude to cheers without having a sip. So although this is very formal, the reason why I wanted to bring you on, this is probably the first time I brought someone outside of the performer side of the events industry. In the back of my mind, I'm putting on this podcast and putting it together. I really wanted to talk about like the behind the scenes, like the workings, like event people. We connect with other event people because we're all kind of like-minded.
Yeah.
And
in the trenches together. We're hustling. Yeah.
Exactly. So for a lot of people who aren't in the events industry, it might not be as clear what your role is. So I'd love to introduce you. How would you explain what your role is as a producer to someone who doesn't know the events industry?
Great question, because sometimes I even struggle to explain it myself. However, I guess the easiest way to think about it is a glorified project manager.
Yeah.
You have an idea and you bring that idea to life, whatever that looks like. It could be events, it could be digital, it could be activations. If you can think it, then we create it. So, managing staff, resources, suppliers, budgets, clients, and
just the list goes on.
Yeah.
It's basically wearing lots of hats at all times.
Juggling heaps of balls in the air.
Yes.
And you're generally not just working on one at a time. You have multiple projects at once.
Exactly.
It's incredible and brings so many amazing experiences into my world, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
So tell me how you got started in the events industry. Is this something that you trained for, or did you particularly seek out to work in the industry? So if you take a step back, how did you give us a bit of a backstory to how you got started?
I was studying project management. I wanted to be in the construction industry.
Great.
I wanted to build a skyscraper. That was my dream.
That really tracks with what I know. You're very logistical, very project
I love
oriented.
A build. Any chance I get to build a set or anything within my projects, I'm here for it. So yes, the construction industry was kind of where I was tracking. But because that's project management and event management is essentially project management.
Basically is.
To kind of get a head start and to kick off, I just sort of fell into the events industry.
Yeah.
And then once I was in, accidentally found myself a part of the team running the biggest regional event of WA, Crabfest, and loved it. The suppliers just took me under their wing. I learned so much. It was absolutely incredible. I was working for a local government.
I'm just going to take a step back. Crabfest is Crabfest.
Yep, crabs. Yep. Showcasing crabs in Western Australia.
There's a festival for crabs. That's fantastic.
It's massive.
And
it
where
attracts
is that based?
In Mandurah.
Yes.
It attracts 140,000 people over a 2-day period. Yeah.
Wow.
Massive. 5 kilometres long. I think I bumped in maybe 100 plus marquees, 3 stages, a lot of entertainment.
Talking about like 140,000 people. So I think Taylor Swift had like 80,000 people. You got 140,000 people in a regional town and you're creating everything from scratch. So to give people an idea of what that takes, like if you're in a convention centre, you've got existing walls and a physical premise. So you are building something
from scratch. Greenfields.
Yep.
Everything. Traffic management, all the logistics. You are just given a patch of green grass. And you bring in generators, you bring in waste tanks, water tanks.
Crabs,
Lots of crabs. Managing suppliers, action sports on the waterways, all the entertainers, all the amusements, everything and anything you can think of. A pretty amazing thing to kind of kick off my career in the events industry. I hit the ground running. So then I was working for a local government delivering that, and then had the opportunity to interview for the building maintenance team. And because obviously construction was where I wanted to go, I went through the interview process. And I remember my manager at the time saying, Leah, why do you want to go into building?
Yeah.
You're amazing at events. Kylie Minogue, an amazing singer, crap actor. Don't be like Kylie Minogue. I was like, sorry, any Kylie Minogue fans out there, that's what he said. And I didn't get the role. And then those words haunted me, and I thought to myself, just lean in.
Yeah.
So I have, been in the events industry ever since, and we're going on 15 years now. So
fantastic.
No
happy
regrets.
Anniversary.
Thank you.
So cut forward, I actually met you at an event agency in 2020. And this is a really nice full circle moment because I met you, well, the long story, we'll do a medium version. There's long story, short story, we'll do a little Cliff Notes version. But essentially, when I moved back from Sydney to Perth, I moved during lockdown. So I started a contract with an event agency that you're working at, and we met online through Zoom. So our first interactions, our first project was actually all online. It was fantastic because I got to learn a lot of procedural steps, I guess. I work for myself. I enjoy working for myself, but I really enjoyed working with you because I love the way that you project manage things. And you reminded me of the importance of taking a step back, building a framework, and just ticking through things. And so I actually really need to credit you with kind of giving me a little bit more structure in the way that I was approaching my work and my professional business, because I really do think that that's something that you do naturally. It's a genuine compliment because it's a Leah thing that I've taken with me.
Interesting that you say that because I think we were talking before and I said I love a little bit of structure in my life.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I kicked off my career in local government and there was processes and procedures just everywhere. But it gives you that structure and that framework to then be able to be creative and come up with incredible ideas. And you can pivot slightly if you have the bones of a framework. When you're in a situation where you have no process, no procedure, it feels chaotic in your head. And how can you be creative and how can you create magic when it's just a shit show?
I really love that.
Flying around. So
it really does.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because sometimes I do not feel that. I feel like it's chaos in my mind.
It is chaos.
But
when you take a step back, so like I'm a DJ, I work in entertainment, and I thrive in the chaos of the event and making everything happen and being really fun and present.
Fast-paced.
Exactly.
That's what we love, isn't it? That's why we do it.
It's why we do what we do.
It's a drug.
Before that, there's a lot of admin and there's a lot of like less fun stuff that I have to do to make the job what it is. And the structure and the format and the project management is something that I've really taken from. So I feel like meeting you was a nice reset. So taking a step back, I'd love to know, so that was in Mandurah. We're now in Perth. However, I believe that there's a new opportunity that has opened up for you. Tell me a little bit about what is your next chapter.
Yes. So I will be moving to Singapore in a couple of weeks, actually.
Congratulations.
Thank you. To work for one of the world's biggest agencies as an executive producer. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that's such big power energy from Crabfest and Mandurah, from Lucky Bay and Esperance to Singapore executive producer. So I imagine that role is not just going to be Singapore, like you're probably going to travel around.
No, it will be, worldwide essentially, based in Singapore. Probably do a lot of projects back here in Australia.
I think there's been a lot of mutual admiration between the two of us where I've seen you, I call it the gentle hustle. You probably is more of like a gentle hustle where it's not like, you're not sort of knocking people over. You're not doing anything aggressive. You have just I've been watching you steadily build and progress, and then hearing a story where you've come from to where you are now. It just feels like it's just a really deserved achievement from how you've built. It's not luck. You are blessed because you appreciate it, but I really feel like you've earned this opportunity. So what's coming up next is super exciting. In this field of events, being a project manager, working as an executive producer, which may not be familiar territory, like when you go into an executive producer role, what sort of projects does that mean you're going to manage?
So, for instance, the first project that I'll be working on will be a Disney showcase. My new amazing manager, who is head of experience, has talked about Airbnb. I don't know if when the Barbie movie kind of kicked off, Airbnb took over a mansion and recreated like a Barbie dream house.
Yes.
So Airbnb are taking that concept, and all over the world, like in Sydney, they'll be creating like a Nemo house. So experiences where people can go and stay and just kind of enjoy it. Our agency essentially builds those houses and markets with their clients and whatnot. TikTok, Netflix, Meta, L'Oreal are all clients.
So these are like the biggest names that you could possibly get. So I'm imagining you're going to do lots of sponsor activations, anything that has to do with branding or installation.
Lots of experiential marketing, brand experience projects. I don't know what yet, but I don't even think my brain will be able to fathom what I'm about to step into.
Exactly.
I have no expectations. I just know it's going to be wild. It's going to be a crazy ride.
I think this is why it's really interesting to talk to you now, because it's in the middle of like having just wrapped up. You had fantastic experience in Perth. You're working with a number of great clients, telethon, like all the big projects, the biggest projects you could do in WA.
Yeah, I've been so blessed with my career and the people that I've met and the companies that I worked for. It's just every step of my career has led me to this opportunity. And I think if you give your all to wherever you are at whatever point in your life and you take it all in, learn as much as you can, build those beautiful networks, got amazing mentors as well. You head off to the next opportunity, you go all in, like all of a sudden you just look up and you have this wide breadth of experience and you don't even realize that you have learnt it just from all the things that have happened.
I think that's fantastic advice for people who are not quite sure and they're kind of growing, and even if they're not in the events industry, like this is the world that we live in and it makes sense to us. But I think anything can be applied to, you know, how we're approaching things. If it's a fork in the road, a new job, a promotion, anything like that. You mentioned about having mentors that have helped you. Is that something that you've actively sought out? Do you have mentors that you work with, or you've just sort of adopted what you've learnt from people along the way?
I have the most incredible fairy godmothers and fairy godfathers in my life. I wouldn't say that I've ever gone to them and said, can you be my mentor? They've kind of just adopted me, and generally they've been ex-managers that know me, know my hustle, know my communication skills, know my goals, and have invested into my life. I call on them at different times if something's happening. You know, everyone has something different to offer, but relationships is probably the biggest thing that has helped me with my success. I might not be the best or the smartest at what I do, but building strong relationships, being able to call on people when I need help or I have a question, not being afraid to ask, that has, you know, that keeps me humble, and I know I feel like that has definitely like set me apart.
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like that's something that's a consistent message or theme that's been coming up with people that I'm interviewing. And I'm talking about acrobats, executive producers, and like literally anyone that could be in the event space. But they talk about the people that have either invested in them, even if they didn't feel that they were the best. They're the people that like just stick with it. I don't think it's necessarily, I feel the same for myself. Like I'm not like, you know, DMC world DJ champion, but I am consistent. I stick at what I do, the same as like anyone in their fields. The people that are consistent, that stick what they do, that maintain good relationships. Number one rule, don't be a dick.
Treat everyone how you want to be treated.
Treat everyone how you want to be treated. Those relationships, as they compound, how long have you been doing this for? 15 years? They go a long way.
100%. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Absolutely.
And even
burning bridges will not get you anywhere, particularly in somewhere like WA. I'm sure even Esperance gets smaller and smaller. Maintaining those relationships over the period of time is so important.
Even just lately with moving to Singapore, I've reached out to suppliers from 10 plus years ago.
Wow.
And they're like, yeah, a little birdie told me that you're moving.
They already knew.
Aww.
That's so exciting.
Like
they can see your journey.
Yeah, trust in people, and you build a strong relationship. It's forever almost when you're in the trenches together. You know, events is just such events and activations and projects is just so hectic at times that you're on site building for days on end, and you have the tightest deadlines and you have the tightest budgets sometimes, and you just have to hustle, and you're working 20 plus hour days and you're just pushing to the finish line, but you're doing it together.
Yeah.
And it's a big team. Yeah. When you have a really strong network.
And I think it's pretty safe bet. Like if you don't burn those bridges and if you protect the people or just even maintain some sort of neutrality and be good to people around you, you're going to be better off than sort of burning bridges and making difficult relationships along the way. Because the importance of if you maintain relationships with people, you just don't know where they're going to end up. And it's not to use people, but it's like you just have to be respectful that you don't know where things are going to be. If you don't make a drama. I think that's an important part.
Yeah. You don't have to like everyone.
No.
You don't have to get along with everyone. And sometimes you're going to rub people up the wrong way that you don't even have anything to do with. You know, some people just don't click, and that's okay. You don't have to be friends and love everyone that you come across. Be a good person, be a good human, and good things will happen.
So as we evolve and the world is changing, the world of events is changing, we have digital, we've just had a whole virtual component. What do you do personally to stay on top of these trends and to help move forward with the industry?
The industry is just constantly changing, you know, with the digital world, AI, VR, everything. However, just stay curious. That's probably my best advice. Follow the industry trends, immerse yourself in events, experiences, ask your audience, what do they want?
Yes.
Because, you know, this generation coming through, they have different ideas. You don't know everything, and you don't need to know everything. And probably my best advice is just take risks.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily just need to follow the trends. You can take risks if you come up with something and start your own little trend as well, you know, like what's the worst that's going to happen?
It's so important because, you know, you always told like be original, like do things your own way. And like companies as well, they stand out because they were the first to do things. And then everyone does the trend and then it's no longer kind of new because everyone's done it. To be that first person, but it's really scary to put yourself out there and take that risk. Do you see yourself continuing to work in the events industry, or are you going to go back to wanting to build skyscrapers?
No, I think the skyscraper dream's dead. And you know what? I'm very grateful that I had that little dream because that, you know, projected me to where I am today.
Yes.
I see myself, I've never necessarily had a 5-year, 10-year plan. I've only ever thought I just want more. And I didn't know what more was, but I knew I just wanted as much experience and just to kind of build and grow and develop my skill set as much as I could.
Yeah.
I've gained a wide breadth of event experience. I opened Optus Stadium, I've worked in marketing, I've worked media, worked for local government, worked for private event companies, worked agency.
Yeah. So you've hit all like the really major event touch points.
I think I've been very lucky with the opportunities that I've had and all the different kind of operations that I've been a part of.
With all these incredible events that you've worked on and in all these different lanes, it would be really hard to choose one, but I'm going to ask you just off the top of your head, what is currently your greatest professional achievement that you can think of?
I think being a part of the team that opened Optus Stadium was something I will never forget. It was just absolutely incredible. We all took on the challenge. I don't think any of us had any idea what we were in for.
There's a special camaraderie that you have with your event friends, right? That
they
generally come from the worst and best times. It's like bonding through trauma. There's a connection that you have and the most fun times, the most difficult times. And I've maintained these incredible friendships like yourself. Like we met and there were ups and downs and it was, you know, it was during a pandemic. It was a really challenging time. Business is business, but those relationships are real.
100%.
On that note, just wanted to say thank you so much for all your insight. For a lot of people who don't know behind the scenes what an executive producer is and exactly how it's all done, I think your information was really insightful. Thank you so much, Leah. Cheers. Thank you for joining me for a Champagne Chat. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Champagne Chats. And if you enjoyed watching today or listening, please make sure to subscribe to any of our favorite channels. But as always, this is just an opportunity to share a little behind the scenes of the events industry, some of my friends and colleagues and acquaintances that I've met, because it's a pretty cool space. We love what we do. And remember, may the only pain in your life be champagne. Cheers.